Isn't it nice to sometimes shut off your brain and just talk about football?
Oh man, it
Yeesh.
is.
Hey, we got to
It's
play
also
in the
nice to shut off your
sandbox
brain and scratch certain parts of your body.
and then sniff, scratch and sniff.
I've
That's what
heard.
it's about. So they say, right? All right. Let's get to this thing in 3, 2, 1. What does Green Bay do after they got punked last week? Sorry, Packers fans. It's just true. Green Bay at Houston, the first game in part 2 of the week 7 preview here on the Audible. And really, Bloom, that's the most fascinating thing because we can go through the assets and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, blah, 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 blah. Robert Tonyan. Yeah. I just want to know. I sound like the guy from Pitch Meeting. Yeah. I just want to know how Green Bay is going to react because then that will tell the story of how their fantasy assets, which could perform quite well, will perform. They got embarrassed last week. Sorry, Houston. They're here to take it out on you.
Yes. We'll see. I mean, like you said, we're going to learn something about them. Matt Waldman's weekly gut check column. This is a kind of a gut check game in the sense of how do you respond to being physically dominated and tapping out. And in a in a season, watching the Packers just tap out again because it was very reminiscent of the NFC title game. That's something we see from teams like the Jets. The Browns or whatever. Not a team that we consider a Super Bowl contender. They still are a Super Bowl contender. The Texans aren't necessarily a stiff test, but still on the road. Let's see what happens here. I would think against Texans defense. And see, this is why it can be so frustrating to do fantasy football or to pretend you can predict the future about football, whether it's betting or fantasy football or DFS, whatever. Because different opponents bring out different things in a team, right?
Right.
I mean, different opponents can match up with you in a way that everything you do works, or your Achilles heels just aren't exposed. And then an opponent like Tampa Bay, who's so physical, exposed Green Bay's problems. Houston's not going to. And Houston's defense continues to be one that there's a handful of defenses like Atlanta, Dallas. Houston is one, when in doubt, start players against this defense. So Aaron Rodgers, you expect to bounce back. Aaron, you expect to bounce back. Devontae Adams, you expect to bounce back. Maybe even Marquez Valdez-Scantling, because we know there's vulnerabilities against this defense. Robert Tonyan, we're watching. He missed practice with an ankle, but if Robert Tonyan's out there, you like Robert Tonyan. So we like this defense. I'm sorry, this offense against this defense. Houston's defense is not Tampa Bay's defense. And if it doesn't bounce back, if Matt LaFleur doesn't establish the running game, play action passing, and Aaron Rodgers starts to look more out of sync like he did last year than look like he did in the first 4 weeks, then we get worried. And if you're a Texans fan, but maybe you're not as worried because at least there's a new GM and coach in the offing eventually.
They're on their way, that's for sure. Bloom, it's like the Bugs Bunny hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
The episode where he's had all the
all-time
hats fall out
classic
of the plane, yeah, and then him and Elmer are wearing different hats. And I'll also say this, like it's about different people will bring different things out of you. Like we do the show together, we got great chemistry, et cetera, et cetera. I do a TV show with James Palmer of NFL Network every week, and God bless everyone that's ever joined us on Broncos Beat with Alexis Perry. But James intimidates people because he's so damn good. I mean, he's NFL Network, right? So we'll get some people on that are a little bit nervous because they're on with James Palmer. It's like, so these type of people, it's like some can bring the best out of you, some can intimidate you. And James doesn't do anything on purpose. He's just that good that people like, I need to bring my A game. You know that from interviewing several people, Bloom. Like people will get on with you and they'll be nervous or they'll be super chatty or over, they're like, it's just different reactions. So how do you react to this team? And then how does Romeo continue to kind of sell it to his guys? Like, yeah, we can do this. Look what happened last week. Let's take some lessons. Let's learn and let's throw it out there with their assets getting healthier, staying healthy, at least. Will Fuller, Randall Cobb. Again, go through the list with Deshaun Watson. Yeah. This is really about the mental side and how they continue to react.
And I think because of Deshaun Watson, they will continue to react. They're not just going to start mailing it in. And by the way, Cease, up 7. You just scored. Romeo goes for 2. That was the right move, right? Even though the ball got tipped.
Yeah.
That was the right move, okay, folks? Especially with the defense they had. But with this offense, you like Deshaun Watson. You like a potential shootout here. Green Bay's run defense is not great. So you've already been sticking with David Johnson as a running back 2 or a flex. You're still going to stick with him here. I think Cooks with the back-to-back good weeks established himself as that safe target. See, remember we were asking who's going to be that safe target for Deshaun Watson when he needs to make a play. Last week in the second half, it was Brandon Cooks helping move the chains, and I think that gives you that the higher floor in addition to the high ceiling with the big plays. Of course, Fuller you like, and just question of Green Bay's pass rush getting home here against Deshaun Watson. Jordan Akins did not practice. So Darren Fells still there for us, basketball convert, and it seemed like they were just sticking him around, keeping him in the building in case, out of Kahale Warring and Jordan Akins and Jordan Thomas, who's now with Arizona, if these youngsters couldn't get it going, and they're not, and now he's getting it going for fantasy. And then in the background again, we continue to ask the fire sale about the Texans. Is this the last time we see J.J. Watt as the Texan? Do we see one of these wide receivers move? Just before we went on the air, Yannick Ngakoue was traded to the Ravens.
Right.
And what you see that's interesting about that season, I hope, over the time we've done this show, the NFL's gotten so much more mellow and looser about trading.
They're very loose now. They used to be so uptight.
Yeah. And now you're seeing Rick Spielman, and obviously he's got egg on his face. So, this is that thing where it's almost like declaring bankruptcy, where you say, oh, okay, we made all these plans for success. Success isn't coming. Now we have to just sell off the assets at a discount, right? So they basically trade an early second to get Ngakoue. And I guess they have clarity that because they're not successful, they're not going to sign Ngakoue to the long-term contract. And now they give him up to the Ravens for basically a late third. That's a pretty big price to figure out you were wrong and you weren't going to contend. But at the same time, it's getting something back instead of nothing. I guess a late third is just a little bit more than the conditional pick you might get if he signs in free agency. But it's also moving forward, getting other guys on the field. So the Texans are in that same spot. I think that we can see with this Ngakoue trade, it's a preview of teams being more open to having clarity and seeing where they're at in the arc of their franchise. And right now, Houston is not quite in a rebuilding mode because they do have some pieces, but certainly in the short term, there's definitely sellers.
Okay, Seattle and Arizona, the next game up. In Seattle side of things, on Wednesday, we didn't see Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. Just load management days, per Pete Carroll. Carlos Hyde is still limited off the bye with the shoulder, so whatever's whatever. You're looking at Chris Carson there, and obviously R-Dub going to cook maybe pretty soon with Antonio Brown. Not for now, Bloom, as of this recording, but Russ against Arizona, yes, please.
Oh, yeah. This is fun. Lots of showdowns, lots of divisional games, and this one's really exciting. And unlike last week's East, maybe the worst afternoon slot to watch football that I can ever remember. This one should be a lot better, starting with this Seattle-Arizona game. And we'll see in the background Antonio Brown, Seattle Seahawk. I'm still not that excited about him this year, but if he can get back on the field, get some momentum going next year, I think you could see Antonio Brown have some fantasy value again. And obviously that would help Russell Wilson's fantasy value preview. I don't think I would cool off at all about DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett if Antonio Brown's out there. Just keep that in mind. That's the big story here. Chris Carson's rested. You like that. Like you said about Carlos Hyde, that shoulder injury is an issue. I'll be watching out of the bye here whether they figured out DJ Dallas is better than Travis Homer. So, maybe they thought Homer was better when the two were together with the Hurricanes. And again, Seaside, with the possibility of Antonio Brown, I just think this is Seahawks are pretty fierce, but I hear Bob Marley in my head. The song Three Little Birds. And they're not little. With DK Metcalf's not little, but don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's going to be all right. And Russell Wilson gives them that feeling at the end of the game. But we'll see what Kyler Murray can do in this outstanding battle of the quarterbacks.
An outstanding battle, and Seattle's defense is so terrible against the pass. So DeAndre Hopkins got a little bit of an ankle thing. We'll watch that in practice as the rest of the week goes on. You're wondering, can Kenyon Drake do it again? Last week was the first time where he really paid off on that late first-round pick that you probably spent to get him, early second round maybe. And then you're wondering if Chase Edmonds and anybody else going to do anything outside of Nuke and Kenyon Drake against Seattle. The answer could be definitely yes.
Yeah, you have to stretch that offense. And this could be one where we see Kyler Murray's limitations as a passer, but certainly you see his eagerness to run, which I think is going to give him. Is he the fantasy quarterback one this year? If we were drafting today, would he be the first quarterback off of the board? Maybe. I can't say it's definitely wrong. And some of it is just how eager he is to run and how good he looks. See, so I think that even in the most optimistic scouting projection of Kyler Murray will not have had him making this kind of impact as a runner, and without putting his body at risk. Because that's usually the thing, like, oh, running quarterback's going to get hurt. They don't even get a hand on him, and he looks like he knows he's aggressive, and that's going to be a big part of how hopefully he can hang with Russell Wilson in this one. Kenyon Drake, I guess you're going to put him back in the lineup coming off of a big week, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle's run defense is better, and if Russell Wilson gets out to lead, then we're not going to see as much Drake and maybe more Edmonds. Christian Kirk's the hot hand here. The deep passing game is working. It can be vulnerable against Seattle, and we'll see maybe some Andy Isabella. I'm not saying I'm going to start Andy Isabella, but Andy Isabella, we've seen Murray actually miss him a few times. That's another vertical dimension. You would have to think, Cease, if you're game planning rationally, you're going to have to put up in the 30s to beat Seattle. Andy Isabella in the vertical passing game could be part of that.
Yeah, what the heck, Flex? Sounds good. What the heck, Mother Nature, as Kansas City and Denver is going to be 26 degrees and snowing. I think it's 80 or 75 on Saturday.
Right.
And then snowing on Sunday. Anyway, it's Colorado. Whatever is whatever. And any moisture to help out these fires. My God.
Yeah.
So there's that. Let's talk about the Kansas City side. Pat Mahomes loves playing in the snow. Last year, these two teams played in the snow in Arrowhead, and Mahomes was fine. More than fine. Because everybody else is in slow motion. He's out there slinging it to Tyreek, slinging it to Travis Kelce. Broncos still can't cover tight ends when they face a good one. Obviously, you're starting Travis Kelce. McCole Hardman is a flex play, not even what the heck flex. Demarcus Robinson's a what the heck flex. And then we get to the backfield. Andy Reid saying Le'Veon Bell may not give it a go this week. They're going to take it day by day. We'll see. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire's fantasy GMs are like, let's do that again. Against Denver in the snow, what can we expect from Kansas City?
I would think they could take advantage of this. AJ Boye, where's he at on his return to play?
He should. He was out there yesterday at practice. So he should be back this week.
Yeah, but who does he match up with? Like Demarcus Robinson? I don't know. I don't like the idea of Boye on Tyreek Hill.
Callahan's going to be on. Bryce Callahan's going to be on Tyreek.
Yeah. So I mean, the point is Denver's secondary is vulnerable, no matter what New England couldn't do against them last week. Denver's not afraid of Mahomes, though. They don't have Von Miller. They'll come after him. I mean, what we've seen in the past is, unlike the teams, the new strategy du jour is induce teams to run. I don't see that in Vic Fangio's DNA to say, we'll just sit back and if they run the ball all day, that's success. So, I mean, even in the snow, and the snow could be better for the offense than the defense, to be honest. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to change his approach in the snow, so I wouldn't worry about that. At least if you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm not that worried about Le'Veon Bell. Not even sure he's going to play. Andy Reid's not sure he's going to play. Denver's run defense has been full of effort and good outcomes at times. But you're still going to play Edwards-Helaire, and if Bell's active, you're probably not going to play him yet. I think that they may ease him in. Demarcus Robinson is the better play than McCole Hardman in terms of snaps. But again, AJ Boye on Demarcus Robinson might be a little better matchup than Boye was on one of these speed receivers. So it does open up, even if he only gets half the snaps, the chance for McCole Hardman to come through with the big play that he didn't come through in the downpour. And it just continues to look like Travis Kelce is actually that cornerstone of the passing game, and he was the Kansas City early round pick you wonder from the passing game, not Tyreek Hill, who's getting that, not getting the volume. And again, the Chiefs content to say, well, if we win by running the ball and being safe with the ball on offense, we'll take that. And the question is just how Denver approaches them on defense. I do know one thing, Cecil. I don't think Denver's offense is going to keep up.
No, and what they're going to try to do is most likely run the ball with Phillip Lindsay first and Melvin Gordon second. That's what I would do. I can't say what there is, but just no.
Oh, no, I triggered you.
Don't want to do that. We got another talking to. Like, you can't say that. Oh, okay, yes.
Oh man,
Yeah.
WNBC.
WNBC. Okay, Denver. It should be Philip Lindsay as the starter, and it should be Melvin Gordon as the backup. Take that for a Lassie bark. And then they should run the hell out of the ball, honestly. Locke will have Locke's like a race car in the red, but he's also a race car that needs some tuning. So he's wanting to be aggressive. He's wanting to attack downfield. He's wanting to just throw to Alberto. No fans back this week, by the way, most likely. And yes, there may be times I feel so stupid I have to behave this way. There may be times where you see Alberto and Noah Fant on the field at the same time. So anyway, they can't get into a shootout with this team. It's in the snow. The best recipe is to run the ball. And then Tim Patrick, back-to-back 100-yard games, probably not going over 100 this week. Don't expect much from Jerry Jeudy, as that isn't a thing yet. So Noah Fant, Philip Lindsay, those are my two favorite Broncos this week. Everybody else is just meh.
Yeah, and maybe speaking about like different games, different opponents, bringing out different things in players, right? Drew Lock wasn't necessarily impressive last week, and we saw that connection with Tim Patrick. But at the end of the game, we saw a different Drew Lock coming out. One was miscommunication, not on him. The other one was on him. And if he's playing from behind, I like the Kansas City defense this week in fantasy leagues. I think Lock can become more shaky the more the negative game script is affecting what is available to him and his decision making. I agree with you, Lindsay, over Gordon. Gordon is what the heck flex at best. I think this is Lindsay. I don't want to say it's his backfield, like he's going to get 80% of the touches or something, but he should stay ahead. I'll take Tim Patrick over Jerry Jeudy, but I generally agree with you that probably neither. Patrick's game matches Drew Lock see it, throw it style. Not a lot of anticipation there, which I think works a lot better with Jerry Jeudy. Like you said, Noah Fant. We're presuming Fant ahead of Alberto, but we'll watch and we'll see because
they're the same guy.
Yeah.
They're the same guy.
Yes. Athletically, they're basically the same guy.
Alberto's more athletic than he is.
Right. And not necessarily the most consistent or the sharpest skills. Again, I just think of Jared Cook, and it's up to Locke. I think that what we're watching with Locke is he's not an extension of the offensive coordinator type of quarterback. He's kind of doing his thing out there.
The OC may not like that very much.
No. and
that's maybe why the OC likes Brett Rippon a lot. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
One might opine or posit or theorize that, right? The other question I have here, Cecil, is, okay, you can look at Denver's season and say they've won 2 games. They beat New England. They could have beaten Tennessee if they'd made some more plays. They had a chance, even with their quarterback getting knocked out, to beat Pittsburgh. So everything's okay. But if they lose this game, is everything okay? Are they going to be sellers? Where is this team as far as the people in the building where they see, again, thinking about that arc, thinking about that trajectory of a franchise with the trade deadline coming up, this game may give them a much clearer picture of that.
Clearer picture indeed when we talk about San Francisco and New England. And this is a mysterious game just on, okay, is Jimmy Garoppolo going to throw a bunch of 2-yard passes that Debo turns into 50-yard touchdowns? Yeah, maybe. Sure. How's that back? Is it a Jermichael Hasty week? Seriously, Jet McKinnon's a what the heck flex. And even if he's in a reserve change of pace role, you know what he can do. So is it Jermichael Hasty time? It's always George Kittle time. And against the New England Patriots, it'll be interesting to see how they respond after we didn't practice for 2 weeks and then they get stomped. Okay, how do they respond? And how does San Francisco's offense? We know what they want to do, Bloom, but can they do it this week?
Right. The first thing we do when we're breaking down in a New England game, is Bill Belichick's going to take something away. It's Kittle. I'm not saying don't play Kittle. I'm saying you take Kittle away, and then you see what Jimmy has. Because I think these Debo Samuel glorified handoffs, New England, they're a well-coached defense. They're going to pursue well. They're going to read the play well. They're going to be prepared for those plays, and they're going to be able to snuff those out. The question is, what does Kyle Shanahan have? And it's so interesting. I know I mention Eric Stoner almost every time we do this show, but it's because he's such a stimulating person to talk to, and he sees some of the same things. Right? We always go back to that clip from before the Super Bowl, the Rams Patriots Super Bowl season, whenever you could see that Bill McVay was just in awe of Bill Belichick when he was about to face him in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Last week, it felt like maybe he's a little bit in awe of Kyle Shanahan. Is Kyle Shanahan in awe of Bill Belichick, though? Or is Kyle Shanahan not going to make the mistake of Sean McVay, where McVay didn't anticipate that, hey, Belichick's going to try to get inside of my brain and make me uncomfortable, so I have to be ready for that and have a plan B. What's the plan B? How do you know that, Bill Belichick's going to be able to read you like an open book based on what has worked in this offense and what hasn't. So what's the counterpunch here? I would guess just leaning on the running game and play action passing and hoping that you get something downfield, maybe with Kendrick Bourne, maybe with Brandon Ayuk. You still could probably play Deebo Samuel because he's warming up going into this game. I still think it's a JaMychal Hasty game. I'm mostly excited to see JaMychal Hasty because of how he looked. Jerick McKinnon, and it's so interesting how after McKinnon got 90-plus snaps, and we're like, hey, look, McKinnon, not necessarily 230, 240-pound back, but look at that usage. And then they're saying, and we're observing, he doesn't quite have the burst he had before that. So maybe there's something to some of these usages of running backs, and that opens the door for JaMychal Hasty. And I think he could have potentially a breakout game here. But I do think this could be an ugly game. This could be a game that, like the game we watched last week that you had to watch closely, where it may hinge on a turnover or a bad decision or a special teams play, because I don't expect a lot of offensive success on either side.
Ugly, short passes, they're hoping turn into long gains. That sounds like the Patriots. Okay, Patriots side and attacking the 49ers defense, and Julian Edelman, 100 years old, and it's not working. Although Edelman is a passer, I think their longest play last week was 22 yards.
Yeah.
So there's that. Cam's got to get uncorked as a runner somehow, some way. Will Shanahan allow that? And again, Bloom, this is just one of those games where these aren't the fantasy assets you're looking for.
No.
As Obi-Wan would say, okay, move along. Move along. That's what the stormtroopers say.
Yeah, and I think this is a game, Cease, where we say, is it time to really get worried about the Patriots offense? Or maybe it was already time to be worried about the Patriots offense, honestly.
Yes.
Because it's just, what does Newton have? Now, granted, Newton, without much to work with, can still be a viable fantasy quarterback. He was terrible last week, and he still was a 22-point play because he got the rushing touchdown, because he had a big scramble. And then, the plays as a receiver got that PPR extra boost there. But what that showed me, Cease, is those are the plays that Josh McDaniels keeps in the back pocket for some key drive in a playoff game. You're using those plays to try to come back against Denver at home in week 6. You're already digging into that part of the playbook. They're worried about the offense. They see that what they have isn't working. We'll try to get Damian Harris going, I guess. Darrell Henderson had a pretty good game against the San Francisco defense last week in terms of a carry-by-carry basis, but Harris isn't Darrell Henderson in terms of burst. I guess we like James White. So here's the deal. If nothing is working in this offense, then there'll be a lot of short passes to James White. So maybe you like James White in a PPR league. Edelman, we're just seeing, is it time to drop him? We need to see some signs of something from him. N'Keal Harry, boy, they have a do-over there. A.J. Brown was on the board. That's who we all said in the chat room earlier. That's who I thought would have been the perfect pick. And, they have wide receiver scouting. Damiere Byrd, maybe, on a deep ball. And then, let's watch this, right? Bill Belichick's not the type to wave the white flag. If this team falls to 2-4, do they? Do they become sellers? They need to trade for a wide receiver or 3. They need to do something. This is San Francisco's feeling a lot better coming into this game, and this could be one of those ones where teams going in opposite directions increase the velocity of those directions.
Yes, it's like they sling them, right? Mm-hmm. The gravity sling that I was talking about. Jacksonville and Los Angeles, there's a lot of fantasy GMs that will say, I'm starting a lot of guys from this team, this game. Jacksonville side first. Charger side's more interesting, Bloom. And we're watching limited participation for Visca, shocker, with a hamstring, and limited participation for DJ Chark. So the guys that you would be excited about, not named James Robinson, are Chark and Visca. And now you got to wait and make sure they're give it a go on Friday. It's always Friday, people. So as we record this Thursday morning, Bloom, how much confidence do you have in the Jaguars this week?
None. Really. I mean, well, see, this is just like last year where, okay, beginning the season, Minshew's a fun story, Jacksonville's plucky, hanging in. And, as Jeremy brings up in the chat room, when the coach acknowledges, yeah, we might bench the quarterback, that's bad. They're not even trying to protect Gardner Minshew's feelings at this point. The coach siding with DJ Chark, who says Lions didn't do anything to stop our receivers. We were open. So you look at Gardner Minshew as a couple of steps out on the plank. And this could easily be the game where he walks the plank. And in some ways, for fantasy, the strict fantasy lens, if you got DJ Chark, you got Laviska Shenault, you got James Robinson. Whoa. Jake Luton or Lutton. That's my breed, Assis. Or Mike Glennon. I mean, what's funny, Assis, is if they don't actually play Mike Glennon. I mean, look, I would love to see Gardner Minshew turn this around. I don't think he's going to. I do think we're going to see another quarterback for Jacksonville at some point. And maybe then back to Minshew, just like we saw Minshew to Foles back to Minshew. I remember when Minshew came back last year, he was terrible when he post-Foles meltdown. So, yeah, I mean, Jacksonville, unfortunately, they're a game ahead of the Jets, or behind, depending on how you look at it. And they're not necessarily going to be in position to get Trevor Lawrence. They might be in position to get another quarterback. You keep playing James Robinson. I don't know if you're going to play any one of these receivers. Keelan Cole's the hottest coming in. DJ Chark is interesting. How do you interpret this? Because on one hand, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But on the other hand, the player who throws his quarterback under the bus, rightfully, maybe he doesn't get more targets. I don't know. I don't think that thing that Gardner Minshew is necessarily going to freeze him out, but it just adds a lot of uncertainty. And then you have the Jacksonville, and this is what's funny. See, Jacksonville should be sellers. Who do they have that they can sell? I mean, D. Westbrook for a 7th round pick or something like that. They already sold off everybody. So too late.
Too late for that. Let's move to the other side. Not late. But how about some wins, finally? This could be Justin Herbert's win. Maybe not many more of them, but he's gone toe-to-toe with some of the best. Keenan Allen's practice status we'll be watching. Him and Mike Williams had a thing, and it was beautiful. We'll see that backfield as well. A lot of fantasy GMs are looking at Justin Jackson as an RB2 with upside this week, at least a flex play, Bloom. So the Chargers are more exciting, and the Chargers are the side where fantasy people are saying, can I have more Chargers in my lineup this week?
Yeah, as many as I can. We saw DeAndre Swift have a breakout game against them. So you like Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson. And this one, Jackson a little banged up, so maybe this could be a secret Kelly week. You love Justin Herbert. I mean, he still hasn't had a bad fantasy game yet, and this is not the defense that's slowing him down. He has arrested Mike Williams. Let's watch Keenan Allen and the back spasms, but I think he's going to be fine. Hunter Henry, remember, he doesn't have Austin Eckler back. Getting that news earlier this week that it's later rather than sooner. So with the Chargers already having their bye week, we're looking at week 10, week 11. This should be, and this is the trap we fall into every time with the Chargers, right? Sees the coach changes, some of the top teams in the team change, maybe even the quarterback changes, and we think, and they're going to get Melvin Ingram maybe back this week, certainly back soon, and we think this is a talented team. This should be a competitive team. Frankly, Cease, this is a team I want to see in the playoffs. I want to watch Justin Herbert go in on the road somewhere in the wild card round to see what he can do. And let's just put a little prayer candle out there, Cease. Let's light a prayer candle because the Chargers' schedule is Jacksonville, Denver, Vegas, Miami, Jets, Buffalo, New England, Atlanta, Vegas, Denver. They finish up with Kansas City in Week 17. They took New Orleans to overtime. They took Kansas City to overtime. They could have easily won both of those games. One might say they were the better team for most of those games. This team should feel like they can play anybody straight up. Wait until they get Austin Eckler back. They can play anybody straight up. So got to win the easy ones. This is an easy one. Got to win it impressively. And it seems like every time we think the Chargers are going to do this, they don't. So I'll be watching.
Sunday night football is Tampa Bay and the Vegas Raiders, and Tampa Bay feeling good, riding high. Tom Brady's not yelling at anybody for now. And off to Vegas they go for Mike Evans, Chris Godwin show, the Rob Gronkowski show. Is it back? Can you trust him as a tight end one? And nobody's trusting Leonard Fournette. So Ronald Jones is the back that you'll plug and play against those Raiders. How do you think Tampa performs Sunday night?
Love the Super Bowl rematches, Cease. And there's something wrong with the simulation. Something's glitchy. Because how is it that the Raiders are playing the Bucks like 16, 17 years, I don't remember exactly, it was 18 years after they played in the Super Bowl, and John Gruden's the coach for the other team?
Right.
This is weird. And actually the team that he originally was coaching before they traded him to the Bucks for that game. So walk down memory lane there. Tampa, is this a Tom Brady game? Is this a game where Brady has to do more? The biggest story in this game, just jumping over the Raiders side real quick, is Trent Brown on the COVID list and the entire offensive line going home. And we may end up in a weird situation here where, I don't know, hopefully none of the other Raiders offensive linemen test positive and they're cleared to play for Sunday night. But would the NFL say, you got to figure it out if they can't play because they're still in quarantine? Will they keep this game on schedule? It's 2020. We have at least one of these to talk about every week. You would expect Ronald Jones to 300-yard games in a row, and why would you go away from that hot hand? The passing game now, with everyone back, is not that exciting. Even Tom Brady, not that exciting. You almost want to root for success for the Raiders against this defense, and that's the problem for fantasy, right? This defense is so good that they don't have to extend themselves on offense, on the pass offense. So we're lowering expectations for Evans and Godwin. Good luck picking a tight end. We'll see if Gronk can keep it going. But this is a defense team. This is a Ronald Jones team. And this is a team that has everything going the way they want, even though it might not be the way we want for fantasy.
The way we want for fantasy is points abound. And on the flip side of that, well, points abound for Vegas, who's riding high, of course, after taking down Kansas City, and Henry Ruggs in those big plays, at least wide receiver 3 with upside, at least for Ruggs this week. And that's, can you get there with that front 7 of Tampa? That's the only thing you're thinking. Can you pick on Carlton Davis and those guys in the secondary that take chances, that have length, that are certainly aggressive, but you can use that aggression against them? Darren Waller, everybody's starting him. You're starting Josh Jacobs. It comes down to, what do you think for Renfrow? What do you think for Ruggs this week? And how much of a fight can the Raiders put up against Tampa?
Yeah, this is a game where the Raiders want to show that they are the team, maybe not the team to beat, but a team that everybody should fear. I mean, if they can beat Kansas City and Tampa Bay, is there a team that's hotter right now than Tampa Bay, in the sense that we think of Tampa Bay as highly as we've thought of them all year right now? So if the Raiders can beat them, that's pretty amazing, considering the way they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. Biggest thing here, I think, is time for Carr to throw deep to Henry Ruggs. If that's there, then things open up for Darren Waller. It should be a big Darren Waller game. Then things open up maybe for Nelson Aguilar. And coming out of the bye, I think Aguilar, he's done something like caught 12 or 13 out of his 14 targets, touchdowns, big plays. I think you got to get Aguilar more involved. I don't think Bryan Edwards is going to be backed. Hunter Renfrow. And because the other thing is, you notice I'm talking about the passing game. It's the Tampa Bay run defense. What did Aaron Jones have last week? 10 carries for 15 yards. I think Alvin Kamara had 12 carries for 15 yards against them. You're just not going to run the ball against this defense. I don't even know. See, this is like the Steelers back in the day, where why do you even bother running? Does Gruden have the guts to come in and say, we're going to throw the ball 50 times in this game? We're going to do short stuff to Waller and Renfrow, and then we're going to take our shots deep, because that is the best way to attack this defense, even though it does leave Derek Carr hanging out there, but Derek Carr coming in with his confidence at high. So this is a fantastic marquee game very contrasting styles, two great, colorful coaches. This is everything we could hope for in a Sunday night game.
And better than Monday night.
Yes.
Bears and the Los Angeles Rams. Let's break that one down. And Bears side first. David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, you're thinking of the assets that you normally would go to, but this could be a little bit more defensive, a little bit more low scoring than some would think. Bears side first, Bloom. How excited are you about these guys Monday night?
I'm excited in the sense that we'll get to see if this team can keep the winning ways going. And otherwise, there's a magical thing about Nick Foles, right? I mean, you get to the playoffs, Nick Foles is your quarterback. We can make fun of Nick Foles, but when he has been a quarterback in the playoffs for the Eagles, both years they played way above their heads. So there's just something about this dude's aura that convinces a team that they're bigger, stronger, and taller than they really are. And this is a game that even on the road they should be able to win. Foles is doing enough. I think this is a game where you have David Montgomery and a solid running back too, simply because he's going to get the receptions out of that. It'll be interesting to see if the Bears are in the market at trade deadline for receiving running back or otherwise bolstering their backfield. You might see Allen Robinson against Jalen Ramsey. That doesn't mean to put Robinson on your bench or anything like that. Ramsey's been doing a lot of different things. But could it be a game where maybe I'm still waiting for that Darnell Mooney deep shot to connect? You also still have Jimmy Graham, who's getting some good volume here. But look, the Bears have like the little engine that could cease. Like, I think I can kind of offense. But that's all they need with this defense. In the last 2 years, we have seen the Rams, whether it was Vic Fangio or after Vic Fangio left, really have problems with the Bears defense. I don't expect the Rams. I think they're topping out at 17 points in this one.
Right. Yeah, that's pegged out. The old tachometers pegged out for the Rams, but Fantasy GM's like, can I squeeze a little more out of Darrell Henderson? And watch Malcolm Brown get like a garbage rushing touchdown or something. And Fantasy GM's like, okay, tight ends, what? Go. Rams side is interesting to say the least, Bloom, because of their opponent this week and just because of almost the roadblocks or speed bumps they put in their own way.
Yeah. Well, can the Rams beat a real team, right? I mean, they swept the NFC East, and they really weren't close to San Francisco when San Francisco just got thumped by Miami, and the Rams can't hang with San Francisco. And then, yeah, they did take Buffalo to the brink, but for the first half of that game, they were blown off the field. So what do they do against the Bears? Again, the Bears have Sean McVay's number. I think Goff during 2018, when this offense was riding fly. I made something up right there.
That's a good one.
On the fly, riding high. We all want to be riding fly. Riding high, and yet Goff had 4 INTs. Last year, it was in the middle of that touchdownless November. They did win the game because the Bears' offense was so bad. But again, I mean, just looking at 2 instances of the McVay offense, Jared Goff, and the Bears, it has not been good. And this has been a very stingy defense. Cease, this is not the week to be waiting for something on Monday night. This is not the week where, like, I just need Cooper Kupp. Well, you're not going to get it. Well, I mean, I may eat my words here. I suppose it's Darrell Henderson, but watch out for Cam Akers as we hear an explanation from Sean McVay that leaves the door open for Cam Akers. Well, the game script just didn't go this way, and we just didn't get the opportunities. You're going to trust Darrell Henderson because of the way he's playing. Woods and Kupp, you probably keep in as wide receiver 3 flex types. You don't expect much. Maybe does Sean McVay have something else up his sleeve? Maybe more Higbee and Everett. Maybe Josh Reynolds in the deep passing game. I don't know. I don't expect this to be a good offensive game on Monday night. So you better get your what the heck flexes picked and ready before Monday night.
Yeah, what the heck flexes probably outperform your Monday night guys, except for David Montgomery, most likely. So it is time to look over that lineup, needing that punch, needing that extra little bit, and that's what we call the ever popular what the heck flex. And in week 7, what the heck flexes for me include Jamal Williams. I think at Houston, there's plenty as long as the Packers come back and do their thing. Chase Edmonds is a what the heck flex for me this week as we continue on. My heart says Duke Johnson Jr. is a what the heck flex, although my head is like, they're never going to use him that way. They're never going to use him as much as they should. So what the heck flex wide receivers include, well, Tim Patrick. He's what the heck flex this week. Back-to-back 100 yards, but that snow game, Kansas City, maybe a garbage time touchdown, something like that. Brashard Perriman has performed enough to do what the heck flex levels in my book. Same thing with Brandon Ayuk, Randall Cobb. What the heck flex this week for me? And you brought it up, Bloom. Same game. I'll talk about the flip side, though. Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Good to see him perform as a what the heck flex in week 7. Who are some of your favorite what the heck flexes?
Lots of what the heck flexes at running back this week. This is not a bad week if you had to go to the waiver wire for a running back. J.D. McKissick against Dallas. Boston Scott. I mean, hey, he's going to get touches against the Giants. Jermichael Hasty. Love him this week against New England. Both of the Chargers running backs, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, and Latavius Murray against Carolina. Remember, Carolina's run defense can give it up like the big slot machine. Deshaun Jackson, another one on Thursday night. If James Bradbury is on Travis Fulgham, you like Deshaun Jackson, if you can stay on the field. I like Adam Humphries a lot. I think that it just makes sense that there will be a lot of passing in the short passing game to slow down the Steelers' pass rush, especially with Taylor out. If you got to dig deep, Dontrell Inman against Dallas, again, play everyone against Dallas. Brashad Perriman against Buffalo is interesting to me, with Sam Darnold likely back, maybe some extended plays. We haven't really seen what healthy Darnold and healthy Perryman can do. Perryman's still a little banged up. But I'm watching Gabriel Davis, too, as John Brown didn't practice on Wednesday. I hope that the Bills do the right thing. It's the Jets week. You don't need to play him. Let him rest. Let him heal so that he can be for you down the stretch what he was at the beginning of the season, getting open at will downfield.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for providing a relief from all the things that are going on behind the scenes. It's always good to be here with you guys, with Sigmund and our audience here on the Audible. Make sure to do those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sigmund, I'm Cecil. We are the Audible, everyone. Stay tuned and stay frosty.